Hello, hello, hello. How is this going? Turn that way down. Just wanted a little ambiance. Gonna try this out. Hopefully don't get a DMCA or whatever. But Critical Role said you could use it, so here it is, and here's the link to buy it. So should be covered. All right. First off, we're gonna look at the expert classes. I already kind of dabbled into the character origins myself separately. Might look back at that, but it was pretty standard. They just standardize all of the character origins so that they're less racist, kind of, because their racial stuff basically is now not determinate of what your abilities are. So like dwarves aren't only strong with health and stuff like that. Now, let's get some light on my face. And like specifically drow are not an evil race because that's not a thing, Tolkien. Yeah. So let's see, this looks like it's overtaking everything, so I'm just gonna turn that down as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna dive into the expert classes because this is the crunchy bits. This is the stuff that I'm interested in. And there's supposedly some changes that are happening to some of the rules in here. Cheryl. Crunchy. Let me know if the sound is off at all, like if the music's too loud or whatnot. So, expert classes. Second phase of the Unearthed Arcana articles. Cool. Material uses the rules in the player's handbook, except where noted. Shape the next generation of D&D. Run D&D. So yeah, expert classes. From what I could figure out going into this, they're basically creating a set for each like kind of class, and I think I talked to you, Mallow, about this earlier. It'll help them to kind of determine what classes to build out next, what subclasses go good. So expert is stuff like, they say here, Bard, Ranger, Rogue, and that's the ones that they're going to go into with this playtest. They're the ones that are just good at expert, or they're good at proficiencies, they're good at ability checks, and that's just their class. That's what they're good at. And then they're going to have stuff like spellcasters and then martial characters. I think they have like a breakdown of them further down in this, so we'll get to that. Feats are now going to be, according to the playtest, this is all hypothetical, feats are now going to be a standard rule rather than a variant rule. Before it was at certain level increments like 4, 8, 12, you would get an ability score bonus, or you could take a feat if your DM allowed it. Now they've bundled the ability score buff into feats. So it is an ability score feat where you get exactly the same thing, but now it's considered a feat, and now it's just lumped into all the other feats. They've got the spell lists, which are now defined by their kind of their domain rather than the school. They still have the school separations because those still come into play, like evocation, necromancy, stuff like that. But they are also now, instead of being class spell lists, they are they don't really have a name for these, but instead of class spell lists, they now have origin spell lists. So arcane being like wizard, divine being cleric, primal being druid, basically. And then, yeah, ranger uses primal, and bard potentially uses all three because of magical secrets, and they can pull from other schools. And then a glossary at the end to clearly define stuff, which they needed in the player's handbook. Honestly, there was a lot of stuff that did not make sense if you did not have experience playing the game. Playtest material. This is all just a first draft of these ideas. There's going to be feedback available in I think a couple weeks that they'll start to accept feedback from this. So this is all just early release material. How to playtest. Or use it with the character origins one. Use only the rules glossary found in here. Whatever the latest article is supersedes whatever the previous article was. We're continuously changing, is basically what they're saying. Power level. Basically, some of the stuff in here may seem pretty powerful, and if it is too powerful when it does go to print, goes to the final draft, they're gonna scale things a little bit. So, supposedly, sometimes they come out and people are like, "Oh, this combination's broken," and they're like, "Oh, crap." And then the survey. 48 subclasses. A lot of rework. This is a big rewrite. New spells, new feats, new and revised. New weapon options, new system. For creating a home base for your characters. I like that a lot. Because I do that organically with my groups most of the time. They kind of find a place that works for them, and then the town, the city, or whatever will like give them a building, and that's just where they kind of hang out now. So it'll be nice to see some actual mechanics built in for that. Maybe some like upkeep and upgrades that are stuff that people already do, which is a lot of this that I can tell so far is stuff that people already do in their home games, but people that are just getting into it or just a little overwhelmed at just creating their own stuff from scratch can use this as building blocks, which helps everybody, I think. Encounter building rules. That is going to be an interesting one to see because the challenge rating system doesn't work. Like, it is barely functional as a means of determining how strong a monster is. Because, like, the first 3 levels, a goblin, a low level 1/8 CR goblin can take out a party if you roll high enough. So it's like, we'll see if they completely overhaul it or if it's just some minor tweaks. And the new and revised monsters, that's always fun. All right. So they're breaking down what makes a class here. Parts of a class. Each class contains the rules, elements described below. Characters who have levels in a class are exceptional. Most of the inhabitants of the multiverse aren't members of a class. Yeah, most of them are just commoners or a guard. Primary ability. Critical to some class, so while you create a character, the ability is a great place to put your highest scores. Yeah, and I can't remember in the player's handbook, but it doesn't like really spell that out. It's just something that everyone would tell you when they're teaching you how to play, because that was, I think Matt Colville said it recently, talking about Eddie from Stranger Things and old D&D in general, and because he was like a teenager when Stranger Things is set, so he would have known the Eddies of the time in the Hellfire Club, and basically you didn't pick up the D&D rules and learn how to play. You had to pick up the rules, figure out some numbers that they had, and then hope that someone could show you what they meant. Because then, and a little bit now, lesser now, it just does not spell out how any of these things interact with each other. Let's see here. Yep, for any multi-classing you need 13 in the primary ability, that's the same. Classes and groups. So yes, so they're class groups that they have here. So experts, which is what this is going over. Artificer is also an expert, however that's in later books, so they're focusing completely on the player's handbook with this material. So Bard, Ranger, and Rogue are experts. Polymaths who have the expertise feature and elements of other classes, because they can kind of just delve into anything they want. Mages being sorcerer, warlock, and wizard, uses arcane magic with utility and destruction. Pretty straightforward. Priests, clerics, druids, and paladins. Okay, so it is a priest. Druids are a priest of like nature, essentially. Stewards of divine and primal magic, focusing on healing, utility, and defense. And then warriors being barbarian, fighter, and monk. Masters of combat. Yep. Makes sense to me. And that is a good balance. They probably had this kind of breakout when they were making it, and they just didn't like publish the names of stuff, because they have 3 for each. So that's not a mistake. 3, 3, 3, 3. And then going forward, when they add classes, they can be like, well, we have 4 experts, 4 mages, 4 priests. We need to add a warrior, kind of thing. This class group has no rules itself, but some prerequisites and other rules can refer to these groups. For example, only members of the Mage group may be able to attune to a certain item. That'll help to alleviate, what was it? A lot of magic items had this can only be attuned to a creature with the spell casting ability, which was like, well, I took Magic Initiate, so now I can cast spells. Do I have spell casting abilities? So therefore I can attune to this thing? So now it'll just be like, are you is your class a spellcaster or a mage? Yes, you can attune to this. Geez, so that means they're gonna have to redo all of their magic items too. This is a big overhaul. See, that's good too. Good advice. When creating a party, one way to do it is to make a 1 member from each class group. But mix and match to your heart's content. I will tell you, a group of all clerics dominates, especially in 5th edition. creating a member of the class. Determine hit points and armor training. So armor is no longer a proficiency. Armor is a training that you can do. Class features. Clerics, listen, the subclasses for cleric are ridiculous and highly varied. So you can do like have a war cleric who is just great at combat. You can have a forge cleric to back them up with enhancements. You can do a life cleric for heals. You can do a light cleric to just be blasting fireballs left and right. Tied with Bard for best class in 5th edition for me. Just do a Crusade-esque D&D where it's just all clerics being sent out to cleanse an undead thing. That would actually be pretty good. That one TikTok we saw about like a Call of Duty Zombies, but D&D, and have them all just be clerics. Let's see, when playtesting a new version, you can use a subclass from an older source, such as Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. If the older subclass features at levels that are different from the subclass, follow the older subclass level progression after the class lets you gain the subclass. So essentially, where there's a discrepancy, just go with the old stuff because that's play tested, and this is brand new stuff. Let's see, revised features and new features. See, this is what I was talking about. This helps with new players and just like players that aren't sure. When a class offers a decision, a suggested choice is presented, usually, especially at the lower levels, and it makes it easier to create characters quickly. I like that. And a lot of the 20th level features have been moved to 18th level, opening up for epic level boons, which is always like a tough thing because not many campaigns get to level 20. So, like, no one gets to see their capstone ability. So it's a little nice that, like, they get bumped down to 18 to get their awesome stuff. And then at level 20, they can get epic boons, which I've probably only handed out, like, 2 of those in the nearly 10 years that I've been DMing because it's just so rare that players get up to that high a level that the only thing that can make their character better is godlike abilities. So we've got the Bard. Invoking magic through music, dance, and verse, bards are experts in inspiring others, soothing hurts, disheartening foes, and creating illusions. The word of creation, anything can inspire a new song or tale, so bards are fascinated by almost everything, hence being skilled at everything. Harnessing the words of creation requires hard work and some measure of natural talent that most troubadours and jongleurs, not sure I know that word, lack. It can sometimes be hard to spot the difference. Bard's life is spent wandering across the land. Alright. So, the Bardic die looks like it's about the same. Proficiency bonuses are all the same. Spell breakout looks to be about the same. So, no drastic changes that I'm seeing here. The Songs of Restoration is new. Yeah, D8 health hit die, so that's fine. Dex and Charisma, I think that's the same. And I like this too. Deception, Performance, Persuasion, or any three of your choice. So it's like, these are probably the best ones you're going to want to pick as a bard, but you don't have to. You can just pick any you want. You get simple weapon proficiencies and then 3 musical instruments. Light armor training. Interesting that they made that not a proficiency. I guess because like you don't add your proficiency bonus to anything to do with armor, so it didn't really make sense having it be a proficiency. You start with equipment. Okay, so this is stuff that would usually be found in your background. Yeah, so they're rolling like that character origins thing. They're making those completely interchangeable. So it's not like everyone picks sailor because they got advantage on perception checks or they got proficiency in perception checks, and that's very valuable. So everyone had a sailor background. Now it's just your class gets you some stuff, and then your background gets you some stuff that you choose. So leaves room for people to actually make characters that they want to play. As a multi-class, you have to have 13 in charisma in order to multi-class into bard or even out of bard. You have to have 13 charisma. That's the same. You gain 1 skill and 1 musical instrument and light armor training. And then they're a full caster, so add your full bard level to determine your caster level when multi-classing. You prepare spells for each of your classes individually, referring to the spell slots of an individual class to determine the number and levels of the spells you prepare for it. Ugh. That's basically the same. It just sounds more complicated. Multi-classing is a little bit tricky, but especially with spellcasters. I don't know if there's a better way to word that though. Essentially, if you are like a level 15 bard and you take 1 level into druid, you can't just automatically take 6 level druid spells using your bard's spell slots. You have to have first level because you're only 1 level in druid. So I'm not sure there's a better way to say it, but that's a little bit confusing. But yeah. As a bard, you get these things. You can supernaturally inspire others through words, music, or dance. This inspiration is presented by your Bardic Inspiration die, which is a d6. You can use it in the following ways. Ooh, it's a heal. Boost a d20 test. A test is what they're calling basically any kind of d20 roll. So attacks, ability checks, and saving throws, they're all a d20 test. Yeah, I like the background changes too, because it's kind of dumb when like you're playing in any campaign that's not in the Forgotten Realms and none of the races matter based on what they set things on. So it's like, well, dwarves aren't just mountain dwellers in my campaign, so why does my dwarf have to have rock proficiency? They should have something else. So, when another creature within 60 feet of you, that's pretty far, that you can see or hear fails a d20 test, you can use your reaction to give them a die. They roll that die and add the number to the d20, potentially turning. Oh. Okay. I see what this is doing. Think I'm okay with it. I'm not sure though. Essentially, what they used to have is you would give someone a Bardic Inspiration and they would have that die for 10 minutes. And they could use that on any d20 test that they wanted to. This is making it so it's only when they fail one when you're within 60 feet of them, you give them inspiration as a reaction, which adds to their roll. So people aren't sitting there with like, oh, I forgot I had an inspiration die I could use. I think they're trying to condense a lot of the extraneous like rules that are like one class does this thing, so it's like unless you remember what it does, no one else is gonna remember it. And I guess this also gives people more stuff to do with their reactions, which is nice. So what's the other one? Heal immediately after another creature take within 60 feet again that you can see or hear takes damage. Oh, see or hear too. And that's on both of them, so you don't even have to be within sight. You can just hear them like, oh, I missed. Oh, do better. Oh. uh, Immediately after another creature takes damage, you can use your reaction to roll your Bardic Inspiration die and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled. Interesting. So I'll have to see how they handle death saves, if that changes at all, because the way this is worded, if someone goes down and they go to 0 HP, you can use your reaction to give them a Bardic Inspiration and bring them back up immediately. Because it says you restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled, rather than like reducing the damage or anything. So after they take damage, you give them health. So if they go to 0, you give them a d6. Which is great. I mean, that's basically what Healing Word was for, but you had to do it on your turn. This is on a reaction, so this is happening during the enemy's turn. That's pretty potent, and is definitely, you know what, I bet they saw a lot of bards not using their Bardic Inspiration because it was a bonus action to give it to people on their turn, and they didn't either had other stuff to do or didn't really want to waste it. So I think this is kind of drawing people to use it more. I'm a little split. I'm a little split on them being able to not being able to just like give it to people. Because this also, like we just had in our in the campaign that I run, we just had someone use their Bardic Inspiration on a commoner to help them with a task. So this wouldn't apply to them. They would no longer be able to use their Bardic Inspiration like that. Which, to be fair, they could just give them like advantage by like, coaching them or like playing them a song to inspire them, kind of deal. But meh. I do like getting to use reactions more often. And this definitely makes the bard even more utility focused. So I think overall this is a good change. I think it's going to be a bit of a wild one. I don't think a lot of people are going to like it, but I think I like it. Yeah, and they started to do this a lot, where stuff is tied to your proficiency bonus rather than your ability modifier. Because a lot of people wanted to delve into feats, but they were like, well, I'm gonna suck if I don't put in scores to ability points. So I think having it tied to proficiency makes everyone level, so you don't have like half of your party going into their stats and they're like, oh, I'm 20 in all my stats now, so why are you guys missing all the time? So I kind of like the proficiency bonus. It's going to be a little bit to get used to, but I think I like it. And the die goes up at levels. Looks about the same. Spell casting. Prepared spells. This is what I saw before. I don't know if it's just with certain classes, Frankie, but it looks like all of these characters can prepare their spells each day rather than just picking one and having it stuck until you level up again. So allowing a lot more versatility with your class and not being stuck into choices and then being like 2 sessions later, you're like, I never used this spell. Why did I pick this? I wish I picked something else. Which is good. I like that because usually it would be like the DM would be like, yeah, just switch them. Just we'll pretend you picked the other one. So this helps a lot. Puts it more into the player's lap rather than the DM having to make rules for all this stuff, which is good because it used to just be like, yeah, the DM will know. Summons. I'm looking at you summoning spells. Must be an arcane spell. Yep, so that's how they're spreading it out. Rather than being a bard spell, it is an arcane spell. And it has to be from a school of magic, divination, enchantment, illusion, or transmutation. That's going to be the tricky thing because the spell lists, they're going to have to sort them better because in the books they are not very well sorted for what this is entailing. They need a very well organized spell book. When you finish a long rest, you can replace any spell you have prepared with another arcane spell abiding by the school restriction. At higher levels, you can prepare more. Blah, blah, blah. The prepared spell has recommendations. A spell marked with a dagger is always prepared and cannot be replaced. Spell slots, it's about the same. Charisma. Musical instruments as a focus. Expertise. Now this is the interesting thing with all three of these classes. I think Rogue and Bard were the only two that would get expertise. And it was at like, I think Bard level 6 and Rogue got one at level 1 and like one at level 10 or something. So right off the bat, level 2 Bard gets 2 expertise skills. So they're going to be great. Performance and persuasion are iconic choices for your Bard. So that's cool. Let's see. You've learned how to use music, poetry, and dance to heal wounds and maladies. When you reach certain levels, you can add a specific spell to your Songs of Restoration repertoire, as shown on the table below. You always have the spell prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. So this is basically like Clerics, where they have like domain spells. You just have restoration spells. Healing Word, great spell, so you just always have that prepared. Which is going to be fun for if you're in a party and you have a bard. It's just like, no, you have Healing Word. I know you can heal. You have to have it prepared. Don't tell me you can't do it. Lesser Restoration, Mass Healing Word, Freedom of Movement, and Greater Restoration. Good stuff. Bard subclass. College of Lore is here, and there's others that will be. Yeah, they'll probably do just a subclass one, because there's 48 of them, I think they said at the beginning of this, which this is a 37-page document, and this is already a lot, so the subclasses are going to be. They'll probably release full subclasses for each character class group, and that'll be how they'll do it. Feat. You gain the ability score improvement feat. There's that change there. Or another feat of your choice. Level 5, Jack of all trades, half proficiency to any ability that you're not proficient in. So that's the same. Subclass feature, font of Bardic Inspiration. You can do a short rest rather than long rest. But in addition, if a creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die. Oh, hello, Corey. Start over. Okay, let me just scroll up. We're doing Bard. Um, just to catch you up, do a little recap. This is the playtest material for the One D&D. That'll be the next version coming out in 2024 or something like that. So this is just playtest material. The notable thing is this here so far. Bardic Inspiration, you can use that to use your reaction to have your ally roll one of your Bardic Inspiration die to add to their d20 fail. Or you can heal a creature that took damage with your reaction. So pretty great stuff for in combat. However, because it's not mentioned here, they're basically getting rid of your ability to boost a commoner's ability to woo a girl in town. You would have to just kind of inspire them and give them advantage or something. But you don't send it back. That's kind of what I figured. I like the utility in combat, but it gets rid of any utility for it outside of combat. So it's like, all right. So what was that next one we were on? In addition, if a creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die and gets a 1, after any rerolls you might have, they use your Bardic Inspiration. Oh, it just doesn't use it if they get a 1. It's like, yeah, I got a little boost, but take it back. So that's at 7th level. That's pretty good. That helps with, like, duds. Ability score improvement feat. It's basically just changing the name of it. Making feats a standard instead of variance rule. Gain 2 more expertise. Jeez. 9th level. That's pretty good. Go make your coffee. Come back. We're going to keep going over this for a while. It's a long-ish document. Subclass Magical Secrets. So this is different. You choose an Arcane, Divine, or Primal group. And then you can choose up to 2 spells that you prepare each day from the list from any school of magic, which is why Arcane is on there, because they already draw from Arcane, but they can only pick from 4 schools of magic. So with Magical Secrets, they can now do any school of magic under Arcane and any Divine or Primal spell. So that's pretty nice. And then I think you get this again. So you'll get, it's a bit more restrictive, but also better defined. Because it used to be you could just pick, I think it's you got 1 spell of any class, no matter what the school was. So now it's kind of confining it a little more, but giving you 2. Feat, subclass, further magical secrets. Yep, and it's just one that you didn't choose from your other one before. So if you did Arcane to get some stuff, you would have to pick Divine or Primal here. That's fine. Superior Bardic Inspiration, so that used to be the 20th level thing, that's now 18th. When you roll initiative, you regain 2 uses of Bardic Inspiration that you have 2 expended uses. That's a lot better than the level 21 that they had before. Those were so weak for being level 20. I think that one was if you start a combat with no inspiration, when you roll initiative, you get 1 inspiration back. It's like, I'm level 20 and I just get to start with 1 of my inspiration die. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Now it's at 18th level. Whenever you start a combat, you gain 2 inspiration die if you aren't full of them right now. Ability score, and then a boon or feat. Prepared. You can change your spells at a long rest. I hope they do this for all of the classes, because having to explain how magic works differently for every class does get very frustrating. It's like, well, as a druid or a cleric, you can decide what spells you get every day. If you're a rogue, you can steal spells from people and you get to pick spells, but then you can't pick a new one unless you level up and then choose them and swap some out, and just make it all the same, please. Spell marked with a dagger is always prepared. So these are suggestions. This is good. People that don't want to dig into theory crafting their class can just pick the suggested spells for all these levels. Yes, this is just recommended spells. That's good. I like that a lot. Some good suggestions too. Power word kill. Animate objects, yeah, because at 18th level you can start to do some weird stuff with that spell. Mass suggestion. I mean, take this one earlier too. Reverse gravity. They just kind of picked a random one. I guess that one's more indicative of a 20th level character that you can just turn gravity upside down. Oh, subclass College of Lore. Probably the most popular subclass until I think Eloquence that just came out. Expose corruption, unravel lies, and poke fun at self-important figures. You gain 3 skill proficiencies, Arcana, History, and Nature. If you have one of these, just pick another. Just pick another proficiency. We don't care. It's not that strict anymore. Cutting words. When they make an attack within 60 feet. Wait, when a creature you see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an ability check or an attack roll. Oh, so if they're trying to jump over a barricade to get to you, you can just be like, nope, and use your reaction to bring down their roll, hoping to make it fail. I like that distinction. It makes cutting words a little bit more useful. Through your studies in cunning, you've learned to inspire others exceptionally well. When any creature rolls your inspiration die, they roll twice. Oh, they basically get advantage on your inspiration rolls. Very good. Very good. Whenever you use cutting words, they also take psychic damage equal to the number rolled plus your charisma modifier. I see nothing wrong with that. Peerless skill. When you make an ability check and fail, you can expend a die. Roll that die and add the number to your ability check, possibly making it succeed. If it still fails, you don't lose that inspiration die. That's nice. I like the safety net kind of feature of that. Because the thing with a lot of these abilities that rely on resources, like Bardic Inspiration, 14th level, you get what, 4 of them? And you're using them as reactions left and right, you're going to be out of them. And if you don't want people to just hoard them for certain situations, you gotta make it so that sometimes if they suck, you get it back. If they roll a 1 on your Bardic Inspiration, it just doesn't count. It's like you gave them a little buff, but it didn't cost anything. So I like that. I like that safety net kind of feature, because I think a lot of the rules, they were trying to be the D&D original framework of being a war game where it's difficult and trudging through dungeons, but also be open to roleplay. And they found that vast majority of their player base just wants to roleplay and have fun with combat rather than be like a grind. And if you want to grind, there are plenty of systems that do it much better. Just focus on the storytelling that you have right now, because that is what is making D&D popular. And I like that. DMs can always just get rid of some of that stuff too and work around it if they want to make it harder. And the players agree. You want to have good communication between DMs and players. Alright, the Ranger. I looked at this a little bit earlier, and it looks like they finally made the Ranger actually desirable to play. With some caveat about flavor. So let's dig into this. Far from the bustle of the cities, amid the trees of trackless forests and across wide plains, rangers keep their unending watch. Wanderers of the wilderness, they specialize in facing monsters that threaten the world. Rangers learn to track their quarry as a predator does, moving stealthily through the wilds and hiding in the brush and rubble. Thanks to their connection with nature, they can also cast spells that use primal powers of wilderness. The Ranger's talents and magics are honed with deadly focus on the task of protecting the world from the ravages of monsters and tyrants. Yeah, because that's the thing with the flavor of Ranger. That's like the epitome of what a D&D hero should be. They're protecting the world from monsters and tyrants. That's like the hero's journey right there. And nobody plays Rangers because they're so unbalanced and lackluster in 5th edition. Like even Corey here, he made a Bard Ranger because the Bard is just better at being a Ranger when you scale it that way with College of Valor. So it's like, why even play a Ranger? Let's see. Armor training. Yeah. Yes, continue watching YouTube. Alright, what do we got here? Let's look at Ranger. Deadly hunters, independent adventurers, and creating one. So the problem with Ranger was it had all this flavor and zero mechanical application of it. Favored enemy. Choose an enemy type. Every time you ran into an enemy, you had to be like, are they a beast? Are they a celestial? Well, I get a bonus to them. Well, what's your bonus? Uh, 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 I don't know. I gotta look up what my bonus is for those specific ones. And also, I added a couple. And also, I can have advantage on survival checks to track them. Well, that's cool. I love the flavor of that. But it's like, what what does that do? Natural explorer, difficult terrain, long travel doesn't really come into play in a lot of games, and usually people handle it with like random roll tables and stuff like that, so this wouldn't even come into play in most instances. And then fighting style and stuff like that is kind of lackluster. Because they had so much flavor baked in, they figured to even it out, they wouldn't give them much combat stuff. This is all my hypothetical. But it's like, oh, primeval awareness. You can know when there's stuff within a mile of you, but you don't know their location or number. It's just like, oh, there's evil around. Where? Somewhere within 5,000 feet of here. Thanks, Ranger. Like the role play aspect of that is great, but there's terrible mechanics to it. Here, you don't get slowed by stuff. So if the DM never throws anything that slows your party, this never comes up. Like, it's just, if you spend a minute, you can create camouflage for yourself. Once you're camouflaged, you gain a +10 to your stealth check. That's pretty great. Most people just use an action and hide, and then they just get advantage. Like, sure, that's a lot better, but it's not that much better that it is a level 10 ability. And then vanish, you can hide as a bonus action. It's just really lackluster class abilities. So let's see what they did here. Spell casting. They're a 1/5 level caster. They still have favored enemy. Roving is new. Tireless is new. Nature's Veil is new. Feral Senses is new. Foe Slayer was a hunter ability from the subclass, so let's see what that does. Multiclassing, they have to have Dexterity and Wisdom 13 in order to multiclass into or out of Ranger. Get light armor, medium armor, and shield. Take half your ranger levels. Yeah, so they're a half caster. Were they a half caster before? Yeah, because I think Paladin is also a half caster. Yeah. You prepare spells each morning. Expertise, so Rangers didn't get expertise before. So that's nice. They can actually be like really good at survival checks, which was the whole point of them. They're supposed to be able to be, tracking and stuff like that and just know their surroundings. And then you would just get regular proficiency on survival checks. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. So, expertise in survival, like it. Favored enemy. You're adeptifying. You always have Hunter's Mark prepared, and it doesn't count against the spells you prepare. And you don't have to concentrate on it. There you go. That's the mechanical version of favored enemy. You pick an enemy, they're now your favorite enemy, and for the next minute, I think Hunter's Mark lasts, you get, you know where they are, and you do an extra d6 whenever you hit them. Boom. Easy. It just works. I did see someone talk about this a little bit, and I kind of agree. A lot of the flavor is lost here, so I'm hoping, because it's an early playtest, they kind of add back in a little of the flavor of the original. But as a mechanical standpoint, this is much better than the confusing shit that was Favorite Enemy before. Alright, spell preparation. Some suggested spells, and then you can just pick as many as you want. Whenever you finish, you can commune with nature and replace any spells with the primal spell list. And a spell that isn't evocation. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So no fireballs. So no like damaging spells. It's mostly going to be utility spells, which makes a lot of sense. Stuff like Hunter's Mark, stuff like Longstrider, stuff like invisibility, disguise self, stuff like that. That would all make sense. No firebolt, no like big damaging spells, because your bow is going to be your damage. Leveling up, prepared spells, spell slots, wisdom, druidic focus. You've honed your martial prowess. You gain one of the fighting styles. Archery, defense, or two-weapon fighting. When you gain a feat later, fighting style feats are amongst your options, even though you are not a warrior group. Okay, so you could later take, instead of taking an ability score buff or another feat, you can take like archery and then defense. So you get a +1 to your AC and you do better. That's pretty good. Pretty good versatility. It's not too OP, and definitely a big trade-off, but if you have a certain... That's the thing with this. If you have a certain character in mind, it'll let you do it within the rules without having to be like, is this okay, DM? No, it's right there in the rules. Let's see, you get special subclasses, ability score feat, extra attack, roving. Your speed increases by 10 while you aren't wearing heavy armor. You also have a climb speed and a swim speed equal to your speed. There we go. So that's the natural wanderer or whatever it was. What was it? Natural explorer. That's the answer to that. Level 7, so it's a little bit higher up there, but you're just faster. It's not that you're restrained, it's just you're quicker on your feet. You also can climb things and swim well because you're just good in nature. It just works. I think that's a lot of the stuff they're trying to do. They're trying to take some of the more specialized rules and making them more standardized for all the classes to kind of easier balance between them what actually happens. So you get climb speed and swim speed, and you go 10 feet faster. Base. That's it. 2 more expertise. That's really nice. Tireless. Primal forces now help fuel you on your journeys, granting you the following benefits. When you finish a short or long rest, you can give yourself a number of temporary HP equal to 1d8 plus your proficiency bonus. That's pretty nice. Temp HP is basically just restricted to casters, so getting that as a martial thing is pretty nice. Decrease exhaustion. If you are exhausted when you finish a short rest, you decrease it by 1. So rather than a long rest, you can decrease your exhaustion on a short rest. Nice. Again, makes a lot of sense for someone who's running through the forest and having to deal with that. They know how to recover. Nature's Veil. Magically hide yourself. As a bonus action, you can use a spell slot and become invisible until the end of your next turn. So you're using a whole spell slot, any spell slot, so first level or up, to become invisible until the end of your next turn. That's going to need some clarification, because it doesn't say you cast invisibility, so that means you can turn invisible and still attack, and you don't become visible again. Because it doesn't say you're casting a spell, you're just using some of your resources of magic to become invisible. So technically you can just move, attack, do anything you want to, and you're invisible until the end of your next turn. That's not bad. 13th level? That's not bad. Feral Senses. Your connection to the forces of nature grants you blind sight within a range of 30 feet. Huh. 15th level blind sight, 30 feet. That's pretty good. So you're just like listening and smelling around you to get a good sense of things. Huh. I think rogues get that at like level 11, but it's only 10 feet. So hopefully rogues get a little buff to their blind sight or some kind of replacement. Level 18 Foe Slayer, Hunter's Mark now deals an extra D10 instead of D6. 18th level, upping your Hunter's Mark from D6 to D10 for every time you hit them. That's pretty good. That's pretty good damage buff overall. Ability, Epic Boon, Ranger spells. Yeah, so just looking at the base class, it looks like they took a lot of the flavor out, which I'm not too much of a fan of, but they definitely made it a martial class. It's an expert, but it's much more martially focused than it was before. Deals a lot more damage, has a lot more combat versatility, and has a lot more movement ability inside and outside of combat. So I think overall the base class, much better than the base class for 5th edition, but it didn't take much to make it better. So have to see how the subclasses do. Prepared spells, some suggestions, Ranger subclass, Conjure Woodland Beings, screw you. Conjure Barrage, 9th level, Bark Skin. Yeah. Hunter subclass. You stalk the prey in the wilds and elsewhere using your abilities as a hunter to protect nature and people everywhere from forces that would destroy them. You can wear down the most resilient foes when you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike as part of an attack action on your turn. The weapon or unarmed strike deals an extra 1d8 damage to the target. If it is missing any of its HP, you can deal this damage only once per turn. Huh. So as a hunter, if you hit them and they're less than full HP, you do an extra d8 damage. And it's interesting that they also included unarmed strike, because that means you could multi-class into monk, and your punches can now do an extra d8 of damage once per turn. Ranger monk cross-classing is going to be very popular if this stuff stays, because they do lots of damage. They can mark people. Hunter's Mark, I think, would work with unarmed attacks too, so you could just be like a roving monk. I'm already making a character in my head. I'm gonna be a roving monk who's just, oh man, because they get the bonus to speed, which monk also gets a bonus to speed and a climbing speed. Yeah, I'm making this. I'm making this class whenever they release monk in this playtest. I'm gonna make some kind of character for that. Gotta go fast. Gotta go real fast. Take Long Strider, cast that on yourself, make yourself go even faster. You can call them. Wait, Revivify? Oh. Yeah, maybe it's because it's only at level 11 and 12 that a ranger can get Revivify that I haven't really noticed any. And also, no one plays ranger. I didn't realize that they could cast Revivify. Hunter's Lore. You can call on the forces of nature to reveal certain strengths and weaknesses. When a creature marked by Hunter's Mark, you know whether it has any immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities. Just all of them. It's like, DM, hand me the character stat or the monster stat block, please. Thank you. And that's just when you do Hunter's Mark, which is a bonus action. So you can just, the second you start a fight at 6th level, you're like, all right, boss, Hunter's Mark. I know all of their immunities and resistances. Yeah, that's good. That's just rip boss. Yeah, it's like, oh, actually, they're vulnerable to this damage. Well, everybody, do that. They're definitely making this. It feels like just with that ability and kind of piecing some of this together, they're making it like a MMO. They're making it like Final Fantasy, where like each one has a good ability that can work well with other classes. It felt like it was more solo player based. Whereas, I mean, this also works for that too, because you're just gaining the knowledge. You don't have to tell anyone about it, and it's only helping you. But it feels like a good synergy with some of the other stuff in combat, because the rules are pertaining to combat. 90% of the rules pertain to combat. So here you go. 10th level multi attack. You can now do Conjure Barrage. And you can even undercast it, which wasn't even a thing before. So Conjure Barrage is 3rd level, but you can use a 1st or 2nd level and have reduced damage. And Conjure Barrage, I think, lets you do let's see. Look at Conjure Barrage here. Are you kidding? I can't even look at it. This is the downfall of having all the digital D&D stuff, is they're going to require you to purchase it on their platform. Well, I'm going to find it elsewhere. Throw a magical piece or fire a piece of Create a cone of identical weapons that shoot forth and disappear. Each creature in a 60-foot cone must succeed on a dexterity saving throw. Each creature takes 3d8 on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. So they can take 2d8 or 1d8. So if they're grouped up, though, that's all of them. In a 60-foot cone, that's huge. So basically at 10th level, you can just, with a spell slot, you can attack, 60-foot cone. You can attack like 30 creatures within that if they're all grouped up. Probably more than likely 5 or 6, which still 1d8 to 6 creatures is 68 damage. See, Superior Hunter's Defense. When you're hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to halve the damage and redirect it to one creature that you can see within 5 feet of yourself. So if you're like in between two enemies, you can just kind of take a little bit of the damage and give the other half to the creature next to you. Or if you're in a group with a barbarian and they can just kind of take it and like, here, have some of the damage. I'm squishier than you. Yeah, overall the hunter ranger looks like it is just a pure good archer. Actually, it's not even archer, because there was nothing in that had to do with ranged combat. Other than you get the access to the fighting style archery, which I think just gives you +2 to your attack rolls with ranged weapons. So ranger has nothing to do with archery, according to these rules. Which is fair, because there's a lot of stories and books and stuff that have to do with like dual wielding rangers and stuff like that. So just make some good martial class with a little bit of spell casting. I like it. Rogues. Let's see, we're not even halfway through this thing. I think after the rogue section, I'm gonna call it. Do just a little bit of a short sesh here. So we'll just get through this. They have a knack for finding the solution to just about any problem, demonstrating a versatility that is the cornerstone of any successful adventuring party. Stealth and deception will authors refine skills that are helpful in a dungeon, such as climbing, disarming traps, and opening locks. Prioritize subtle strikes. They can also avoid danger and learn magical tricks. Let's make this a little bigger. Starting equipment. What do they got? Uncanny dodge, expertise, slippery mind, subtle strikes. I think that was in there before. Reliable talent. Stroke of luck is now 18 instead of 20. Probably be the same as the Bardic one, where it's more effective, but we'll see. Acrobatics, investigation, sleight of hand, and stealth, or choose from these. Good. Having a wide array to choose from and just keeping out the ones that don't make sense. It's like when you're a rogue, your skill proficiency is probably not going to be in religion. Maybe you can gain that through a background or something like that. If that's still a thing. I don't remember what they took away and gave to backgrounds. Martial weapons that have the finesse property. Thieves' tools. Multi-classing, you need 13 dex. You get these tools and one skill of your choice from the rogue skill list. Oh, you just get Thieves' Tools proficiency. Thank you. Because that wasn't a thing that you just got from being a rogue. You had to acquire them and make sure you picked Thieves' Tools as a proficiency. So thank you for just giving all rogues that, because that's all people took anyway. Expertise in 2 skills. Stealth and sleight of hand are iconic. Sneak attack. When you take the attack action, you can deal extra damage. If you're attacking with a finesse or ranged, or at least one of the requirements. Advantage, or within 5 feet. And no disadvantage. Alright, so that's the same. D6s, that's the same. So sneak attack's the same. Rogue was already a pretty good class, so they probably won't change much on this, honestly. You get Thieves' Cant and another language. Good. Because a lot of campaigns don't use Thieves' Cant. Cunning action. You can take a bonus action to dash, disengage, or hide. That's the same, still good. Subclass. Feat. Uncanny dodge. Attacker that you can see hits with an attack roll. You can use reaction to have it. That's the same. More expertise. At 7th level, I don't think that was the thing. So that's more expertise. You can climb nimbly out of the way. When you're subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw, you instead take no damage. Yeah, so that's the same. Reliable talent. Whenever you make an ability check, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10. That's the same. Subtle strikes. Whenever you attack, you know how to exploit their distraction. You have advantage on any attack roll that targets a creature within 5 feet of an ally who's not incapacitated. Nice. So you gain advantage and you have an ally there. So basically, I'm not sure the exact distinction, because if you have, currently with sneak attack, if you have disadvantage from anything, you don't get sneak attack, even if it cancels out from an advantage. Because you technically still have advantage and disadvantage, and the ruling is if you have disadvantage, you don't get sneak attack. So, unless they clarify that for this, it still works exactly the same. This just gives you advantage, which is nice. I don't remember what was their 13th level thing before. Let's take a look. That was just your subclass thing. And Blind Sense at level 14. Okay, so they swapped it so your subclass thing comes later. Interesting, I don't think I noticed that before for the other two. So you get your subclass a little later. But they're more powerful. So far. Proficiency in Wisdom and Charisma, I think that's the same. Elusive, you don't get... Nothing can have advantage against you for attack rolls while you're awake. I think that's still the same as well. Stroke of Luck, if you fail a test, you can turn it into a 20. Once per short or long rest. I think that's the same, actually. So not much changed for Rogue. A few levels swapped, but the base Rogue really didn't get any change, from what I can tell. Without, like, pulling them up side by side and looking at them, I'm not seeing any drastic changes. So let's see how Thief subclass is. Fast Hands. 3rd level, you have additional bonus action things. You can take the search action, make a sleight of hand check to pick a lock or disarm a trap, or pick a pocket. I think that's the same. 2nd story work, you gain a climb speed. When you take the jump action, you can make a dex check instead of a strength check, so that's new. The climb speed is what it used to be. The jump thing is new, and the jump action is new. I don't remember that being a thing. That's probably in the glossary at the bottom. Interesting. Supreme Sneak. You have advantage on every dex check you make, provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy. Wait. You just have advantage on stealth checks? From 6th level on? Thief. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. They're a thief and a rogue, so you just have advantage on stealth. Forever. If you ever get disadvantage, you roll a straight roll, so you can never have disadvantage after 6th level. As long as you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor. So you still got to be wearing that leather and barely having any AC, but if they don't see it, it doesn't matter. That's pretty good. Magic device. You can attune up to 4 magic items at once. Nice. Yeah, because use magic device, if I remember right, was very convoluted originally. Whenever you use a magic item that expends charges, roll a d6. On a 6, it doesn't expend the charge. That's pretty good. Let's see if they actually have that here, because I think you have advantage if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. So that's worse for stealth checks, and it's a later level. So they moved that down and made it more powerful. That's cool. When you make a running jump, you increase it based on your dex mod. Yeah, that's really confusing. So it's like you're still doing a jump check with your athletics, but then you're adding your dexterity to the number of feet that you can go, just breaking it down into way too many stupid nuances. Your jump checks now do dexterity instead of strength. Easy. I like it. Climbing no longer costs you extra movement. What does that mean? You get a climb speed. It's in the rules. They just have a weird wording for it here. So just clarifying that. Magic device, you've learned through workings. You ignore requirements for magic items, which was always confusing. Because, like, you ignore class, race, and level requirements, which there's like 10 that applies to. Because it's like a dwarven thrower. You can use that. Cool. I'm not going to use a giant hammer when I'm a rogue, but thanks. And then class stuff is usually the specific class things are usually because it's like a druid with spellcasting. So if you don't have spellcasting as the thief, you couldn't use the magic item anyway, even though you were bypassing the class requirement. So yeah, that makes it stupid and contrived, and this makes it much better. You just get another attunement slot, and charges have a chance of not being used. Like it. When you use any spell scroll that's a cantrip or first level, you can try to use any spells. Oh, you can use any spell scroll that's a cantrip or first level. I hope they clarify the spell scroll usage, because I'm still confused on how spell scrolls work. I've specifically taken them out of modules that I've run because I just don't know if all the players can use them or not. So I just replace them with stuff that's equivalent and easy to manage. You can use a spell scroll that contains higher level spell, but you have to make an Arcana check. On a success, it works. On a fail, it disappears. I like it. You can now take a second bonus action on your turn as long as it's from cunning actions, so dodge, disengage, and hide. And you can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which at 14th level is like 5 or 6. And you regain all on a long rest. So you can dash. Oh wow, that makes you really fast. Because you can do the dash action, a dash bonus action, and a second dash bonus action. So what is that? If it's base, you have 30, 30, 30, 30. Because you have your movement, your action, bonus. 120 feet. Not bad. And then we get down to the rework for feats. And I think I'm going to end it there. Shorter stream, but just going over some stuff. I might pick up on this next week and do like a maybe Thursday read through or something. I don't know. See what the schedule holds. But yeah, some exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to the new Player's Handbook release, whenever that is, like in a couple of years or something. But this should be some fun stuff to look at, maybe pick some stuff out and use in campaigns until then. But yeah, different stream, trying out some other stuff. So yeah, just gonna call it there. Until next time, remember, don't you go hollow.